Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Faster Way podcast. I am thrilled to be here with Coach Deidre Ferenc today. Deidre, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I thought of no one better besides you, Deidre, to come on and speak about a breast cancer journey and, frankly, absolutely thriving through the journey and the process. But before we dive into your breast cancer journey and that story, I want to hear when and why did you become a Faster Way coach?
So I discovered the program through a girlfriend of mine who many people in the Faster Way community are familiar with, Miss Beth Chapo. Beth and I actually attended Florida State together, and we were friends from college, and she just fell in love with this program, as you know, and she would talk about it and post about it all the time. And I was watching her for months and months. And every time I saw a picture of Beth, she just looked better and better. And I was getting ready to turn 40 and feeling like my body was broken, like I think many women do when they start to get to that phase of life. And as my 40th birthday gift to myself, I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to just give this program a try. I've been watching for months and months. Stop waiting, start doing, let's give it a try. What do I have to lose? So I did the program as my 40th birthday gift to myself. One of the best things I've ever done for myself and for my health. And little did I know that signing up for a little, fat loss program would actually help me later in life on my cancer journey. So that was something that was, I had no idea it would help me later. And after finding the program and doing it as a client, I was like, I have to share this with other women because I know how frustrated they feel. And I know how they're doing all the things, but nothing's working anymore because what you do in your 20s and 30s isn't going to work as you get to your 40s. So that is kind of how my Faster Way journey began.
And what were you doing before starting Faster Way? What type of workouts, what type of diet were you doing before you started the program?
So I was an Orange Theory addict. I was going to Orange Theory 4 to 5 days a week. I was, just doing constant HIIT. I was also a runner at the time. I ran quite a few half marathons as well as one full marathon. So in addition to my Orange Theory, I was also running a few days a week, and I was eating what I thought was healthy, but I was really starving my body. My diet mainly consisted of grilled chicken and salads Monday through Thursday. And then because I was so restrictive during the week, I would many times go a little off the rails and binge on the weekends. And I was kind of in that vicious cycle of restriction, binging. So that is kind of how my fitness and nutrition routine looked when I started this program.
Yeah, man, I still remember seeing your initial before and after photo, and it was significant. And, if anyone follows you now on social, they think, wow, Deidre, you just look like you've always been fit. You've always been healthy. You've always, but it is interesting because many of our clients come in and they say, okay, I've been working out hard. I've been eating what I feel is healthy. I've been even limiting my calories. Perhaps I am training for a big event. And when people come into the Faster Way, we say, actually, we want you to work out less and we want you to eat more of the right foods. And that is what unlocks those significant results. It's often very surprising and shocking for people because it's like opposite day. It's like we're asking people to do the opposite of what they've done in the past. And yet it supports their body and empowers them to burn fat effectively.
Very true. Look, I had a hard time accepting it at first. I was like, okay, this woman is telling me to eat more and exercise less and that the fat's going to melt off my body. I don't know about that. But I also knew that what I had been doing was not working. I was not seeing my body change. In fact, in the 6 months before I started the Faster Way, I actually started to gain weight. So I was going in the opposite direction. So it was like, all right, you can't keep doing what you're doing because you're exhausted and nothing is happening with your body. So let's go all in for 6 weeks and see what happens.
Yeah, the exhaustion, the frustration, the lack of hope. Many endurance athletes come into the program. They say, I've been training for XYZ race and I'm gaining weight. It's very common. And Deidre, when did you decide to become a coach? How quickly after starting the program did you say, okay, I'm going to now coach people?
So I became a client in August of 2018, and I went through the coaching certification that December. So I became a coach at the end of that year and then launched my first round of clients in January of 2019.
Yeah, and you really dove in feet first, head first, whole body into the coach community and got to know many of the coaches. I remember hosting you on a VIP weekend, which is a retreat weekend we do with certified coaches. And you were with a particular group that became very close knit, which I think has been an important aspect of support for you, even through the breast cancer journey. So let's dive in. Tell me, when you were diagnosed, can you just share a little bit about that breast cancer journey, what that looked like?
Sure. So I actually, many years ago, underwent some genetic testing because there was a history of both breast cancer and ovarian cancer in my family. So it was my OBGYN just on a routine appointment one year that was like, Deidre, you have the ovarian cancer. One grandmother passed away from ovarian cancer. Your other grandmother had breast cancer twice. I think we ought to get some genetic testing done on you. He said, it's very simple. 1 vial of blood, we send it off, and we'll find out if you might happen to have a genetic component. So that's what happened. And it came back that I did carry a gene mutation. The gene that I carry is called PAL-B2. So I know many women are familiar with BRCA, but there are actually quite a few other breast cancer genes out there besides just BRCA. So when that came back, my gynecologist said, I don't know what the protocol is. I'm not sure what we're supposed to do with you. I was 37 at the time. So he said, I think you should see a breast oncologist just to know what we need to do as far as screening. So basically, I was just told you have to be screened every 6 months. You have to start getting mammograms, ultrasounds, and MRIs now at 37. We're not going to wait till you're 40 because you are high risk. And you're going to get some sort of a screening every 6 months. So that was the protocol. And I guess I was, 43 at the time. And it was on one of those 6-month screenings because I was being screened every 6 months when I was visiting my breast oncologist. And she was doing my breast exam. And she felt 2 lumps in my left breast. And her initial reaction was, let's not worry. 8 out of 10 lumps do not turn out to be cancerous. So let's not worry unless we have to worry. You're going to go get a mammogram, you're going to go get an ultrasound, and we'll go from there. And so I didn't worry. My personality is not the type that, worries and if I don't need to. So I went in the following week. I got a mammogram and an ultrasound. My mammogram was clear. My mammogram did not show anything, but the ultrasound confirmed that I had 2 suspicious masses in my left breast that needed to be investigated further.
Wow. Okay. Let me just stop you there for one moment, because the fact that your OBGYN told you to go ahead and get tested is something that I wasn't even familiar with. And Deidre, I have to say, and many of our listeners are probably in the same boat, my grandma passed away from ovarian cancer. My other grandma had breast cancer, had a double mastectomy, and I'm 37. So the fact that at 37, you went and got this testing done is really interesting to me. And it seems like I should probably go do that too, just based on what you're telling me. It seems like this is probably a good idea.
There's no
details
harm
are
in
lining
it. It
up.
doesn't hurt, and knowledge is power.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You want the knowledge. If you know that you carry a certain gene. Now, listen, just because you have a gene doesn't mean you're going to get those cancers. Okay. They say that less than 15% of cancer diagnoses are genetic.
Wow.
But if you have the knowledge that you have a certain gene, you can be more proactive and screen more frequently so that if, God forbid, something does develop, the earlier you can catch it, the better.
Wow. Okay. Wow. I really feel that this nugget is extremely valuable to our listeners. I know it's very valuable for me right here. So thank you for that. And the fact that it's a very quick and easy blood test, it's like almost why wouldn't you do it? Or yeah, like you said, it won't hurt. And then the second part that I want to kind of dive into is the fact that when you had the mammogram, it was clear. And then you also had the follow-up ultrasound that showed some suspicious masses. So that's really interesting because typically, and this is my understanding, I could be wrong, I thought at a certain age, women go in and they just simply get a mammogram. Isn't that kind of the typical process?
It is. Right now, for many women, they actually just push the age up to 40. So once you're 40, you're supposed to start going and getting a yearly mammogram. But many, many women have dense breast. And when you have dense breast tissue, it shows up white on a mammogram. And many times cancer tumors can show up white on a mammogram. So that is why it is so much easier to miss on a mammogram. Now, I will never tell women they should not get a mammogram. I absolutely believe in mammograms. They have found thousands of women's cancer, women that I know, it found their cancer. But you need to be proactive in asking your doctor, do I have dense breasts? And if you do, you might want to consider getting an ultrasound as well. And unfortunately, it's something that many women have to fight for when it comes to insurance and getting it paid for. But when my insurance company wasn't willing to pay for it, I would go to imaging centers. I would pay out of pocket because it was something vital that I felt that I needed. So it's really important to know and to just ask questions and be proactive because, getting an ultrasound in addition to your mammogram, if you are either high risk and or have dense breast, is something that could be life-saving.
Wow. Deidre, this conversation has already been extremely helpful. So thank you. So you went and you had the mammogram. It was clear. You had the ultrasound and there were some suspicious lumps. And so what was the process after that?
So I went in the following week and I had a biopsy. They go in with a needle. They take a little piece of each of the tumors and send it to be looked at. And my biopsy was on a Monday. And then that Wednesday, I was sitting at my desk working, taking care of my faster way clients, and the phone rang and it was my doctor. And he said, I have some bad news. He said, your biopsy came back and you have invasive ductal carcinoma. And I was like, what is that? I didn't understand. And I was trying to write it down and my hands were shaking. I could barely even write. And he said, Deidre, you have breast cancer. I don't even remember if I said anything next. I think I was just in shock. And, he said, I'm so sorry. He said, I'll be there for you, and we'll do everything we can for you. That was kind of the end of the conversation. And then I went up to my husband and told him that was kind of what started it all. That was the beginning of my breast cancer journey. And it was really scary. I couldn't believe it because I felt so good, right? I was in such good shape. I was so healthy. I felt so strong. I had no indication that anything was wrong besides these two, lumps that were in my breasts, which leads me to another point. When my doctor found them and she put my fingers on them and she said, do you feel this? And I said, yes, I do. They were very palpable. But I had not been doing my self-breast exams. And if there is one thing I want the women and men listening to this podcast to take away, it is that doing your self-breast exams every single month are so important and so vital. Put a reminder in your phone that goes off once a month If you don't know how to do a self-breast exam, this is when the internet can be your friend. There are a lot of tutorials and videos out there. There's some apps that will walk you through it, but do your self-breast exams, because my 2 lumps were very palpable and I probably would have found them sooner had I been doing my self-exams.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, that's really important. I think I've seen you post on social media that you set an alarm on your phone once a month and go ahead and do that self-breast exam. So thank you for sharing that. Tell me how this diagnosis impacted your diet, your exercise habits, your lifestyle initially, because I know there was then a process. So you were diagnosed, you got that phone call. Did you do anything immediately? And then kind of take us through the timeline of events that unfolded after that initial phone call.
So you meet with a lot of doctors, right after getting your cancer diagnosis. And every doctor that I met with, including some of the nutritionists, because they want you to meet with a whole protocol of people. You're meeting with all different types of doctors. I met with nutritionists, and one of the first questions they ask you is, what does your lifestyle look like? What does your nutrition look like? What does your fitness routine look like? And every single doctor and nutritionist, when I would tell them what I was doing, the way I was eating, the way I was exercising, they were like, yes, keep doing more of that. That is exactly what we want you to do. There was nothing I needed to tweak or change, or, oh no, you probably shouldn't eat that. You probably shouldn't, do that. They were very pleased with my routine that I had in place. I did end up undergoing a bilateral mastectomy about a month after I got my diagnosis. That's a major surgery. And I think that I recovered quicker from that surgery because of how healthy and strong I was when I went into it. About 10 days after that mastectomy, I started walking every single day. As soon as I got my drains out, I was walking on a daily basis. A few weeks after that, I started doing some lower body stuff. And I really did recover super quickly because I went into it so prepared. In fact, this makes me think of something that you said in one of our workouts last year. It was in the fall when Florida, I think, had a hurricane coming, because we both live in Florida and we deal with those hurricanes. And you were talking about that with hurricanes, we have the privilege of preparation. It's not like a tornado or a tsunami or some of these other natural disasters that you have no idea they are coming until like seconds before, right? With a hurricane, we know it's coming. We can prepare to the best of our ability. You don't always know exactly where it's going to strike or exactly how strong it's going to be, but it's coming, a while before so that you can prepare. I look at our health the same way. We have no idea when life is going to throw us a curveball, when a sickness might strike us, a cancer diagnosis, an accident. And we truly have the privilege of preparation by focusing on our health. It is a privilege that we have and we should not take for granted.
Wow. Yeah. I remember sharing that quote before we had a hurricane last year and we were evacuated. It was a mandatory evacuation, but I think the perspective you have is spot on. We need to prepare now for anything that might come our way, whether it's a breast cancer diagnosis, a different type of disease or illness, because we want to have the strength, the stamina, the foundation to be able to fight that disease with excellence so that we can continue to thrive on this earth and really live out our purpose. Deidre, take me to the lowest point in the journey. So you receive the phone call, you're going through surgeries, there's, different aspects throughout the journey. What was maybe that lowest point of the journey? What did it look like and feel like?
So initially, the doctors thought that I was going to have my bilateral mastectomy and I was going to be done. That was going to be it. But when you have a mastectomy, they send everything out to be looked at for some final pathology. And when that final pathology came back, it wasn't what they had thought or hoped it would be. It came back and it basically was told to me that I needed to have chemotherapy, that unfortunately, I thought the mastectomy was the top of my mountain, but it wasn't. That, with the final pathology and the way that everything looked, that chemo would have a significant benefit on my chance of reoccurrence. And so I got multiple opinions. I wanted to make sure that I dotted all my I's and crossed all my T's, and, that I was making the right decision, because for me to put something in my body that was, although yes, it kills cancer, but chemo also kills good things in your body. It just, how can I do something to my body that's going to make me feel terrible when I've been doing everything in my power to make myself feel good?
Yeah.
And, being diagnosed with cancer was like getting punched in the face. And then being told that I was going to need chemo shortly after was like being punched in the stomach a few seconds later. I was just as devastated. I cried just as often, knowing that I was going to need chemo as I did when I was told I was going to, had cancer. And I can even remember sitting in the nurse's office the week before I started chemo, getting what they call chemo education, telling you all your do's and don'ts and what's going to happen. And I can vividly remember sitting there going, this isn't happening. This isn't real. Like, this is not my life. This can't be going on. It was very real, but that was a very low point for me, finding out that I was going to need chemotherapy.
Yeah. Yeah. How does the process of going through chemo compare to the surgery recovery for you? Was it much harder? Were you feeling much worse overall?
They're very different, because with surgery, you start to feel a little better and better each day, each week, right? You just get stronger, you get better. And with chemo, my protocol was that I was going to need 4 treatments over the course of 3 months. So you kind of have this, 3 months ahead of you that you're looking at, where you just know that, you're not necessarily going to feel your best. You're going to lose your hair. And I didn't even know everything that was going to happen. They have you on some pretty strong steroids during chemo. And that caused me to start gaining weight and be very bloated and puffy. And I didn't recognize the person I was seeing in the mirror anymore. But I will say this. I think I tolerated chemo very, very well. And again, I attribute it to this lifestyle. I worked out all 3 months during the chemo. I
Wow.
never stopped working out. I fueled my body the way that we teach our clients to fuel their bodies, with whole food nutrition, eating a good combination of protein and healthy carbs and healthy fats. And I would have my treatments usually on a Tuesday. And Wednesday, I felt fine, because you're all jacked up on steroids. You kind of like get this like steroid, little high the day after.
Yeah.
By Thursday afternoon, I would start to go downhill. I would just feel very tired. You kind of hit a wall. I also had really significant bone pain, which is one of the side effects of chemo. You just feel like you have the worst flu that you've ever had.
Ugh.
So that would start on Thursday evening. And I would feel that way Friday and into Saturday. But by Sunday, which was just 5 days after my treatment, I would be perked back up. And by Monday, I was back in the gym working out.
Wow.
So I really do think I tolerated it better, again, because I was prepared. I was prepared by going into it healthy and strong, and it helped me get through it and come out of it better than I would have.
Yeah. So you went through 3 months of chemo. I remember following that journey on social media and, of course, many DMs and so forth. And I just have to acknowledge you, Deidre, because your mindset, the entire journey from the time you got the phone call and had the surgery all the way through to now has been so positive and so rock solid. And that for me and many of your followers and family members and community is such an inspiration. So share with me the importance of mindset, but then also community.
Yeah. So you don't have much control when it comes to cancer. And for someone like me, who's a type A and a little bit of a control freak, that can be really hard because you don't have control over what's happening. I had a few setbacks with some different things. You don't have control over that. You don't have control over what the doctors are telling you, how your pathology comes back. But there's one thing that you do have control over, and that is your mindset. You have control over your mindset. Although I will be the first to admit, it's definitely harder some days than others to control. Trust me. The way I looked at it is, I have to go through this. There's no going around it. There's no skipping the struggle. The only way to get to the other side of it is right through it. So if I'm going to have to go through it, no matter what, I can at least try to do it with a smile on my face. I can at least try to do it with a positive attitude, a positive mindset, and a positive outlook. Because, if I was going to sit there and just be like, oh, woe is me, and I'm angry at the world, and I'm angry because this happened, that's not going to help me get through it any better. So I'm a pretty upbeat, happy person as it is. So I just really every day reminded myself that you're going to get through this. You are strong and you need to stay positive, because I really do believe in the power of positivity. And I think it helped. I really just did everything in my power to keep that as positive as possible. And the aspect of community, oh my goodness, that helps so much. I mean, the Faster Way community, the pro trainers, my coach friends, my clients, my physical community where I live, people I didn't even know would drop food off at my house on weeks that I had chemo. Like They would drop off dinner, and the cards that I would get in the mail from people that I didn't even know cared about me. I mean, it was really, cancer is terrible. Cancer is scary, but there are some blessings that can come through a cancer journey. And I do believe that I got to experience a lot of the blessings. I had my faith in there being good people in this world renewed, because as we know, our world can be a scary and negative place at times. Just turn on the evening news, and my faith in there being so many good people in this world was renewed. And I consider that to be a beautiful gift that I received, throughout my breast cancer journey.
Yeah. How many months has it been since your chemo treatment, and how are you feeling now? How are you feeling physically? What's next for you from a health and wellness standpoint?
So I finished chemo exactly a year ago this month. My last chemo treatment was in September of last year, and I feel absolutely incredible. After I finished chemo last September, I kind of gave my body a few weeks to just kind of go and recover on its own. And then it was starting last October that I dove right back into all of the fundamentals and the strategies that we use in the Faster Way. Yes, through the holidays, through, the busiest time of the year, I still was able to focus and follow what we preach in the Faster Way. And I would say that by January of last year, I felt 100% back to myself. I had taken off the 15 pounds. I put on about 15 pounds during chemo. That was gone. I felt strong again. I recognized, the woman that was looking back at me in the mirror. And I've continued to just feel better and better throughout this year.
Wow.
I don't even... Yes, it's always going to be a part of my journey and my past, but it's kind of my breast cancer. Everything I went through last year is kind of like a blip on the radar right now. It's no longer affecting my day-to-day life or the way I feel.
Wow, that's incredible. Deidre, as we close, what is some advice that you would offer to other women or men going through either breast cancer or a different health issue?
So I would tell them to allow themselves to feel all the things that you feel. Allow yourself the tears, because a good cry, honestly, will make you feel better sometimes. Allow yourself the emotion, but find something that can really help you rein in your mindset and give you a little bit of joy each day. For me, I am fortunate enough that I live very close to the beach. So when I was at my lowest points last year, I started getting up every single morning and I would go over to the beach and I would watch the sunrise. And for me, starting my day in that way just set the tone for my day. And I would sit there with my dog, and sometimes I would cry, sometimes I would pray, sometimes I would just sit there in silence and, watch the sun come up. But that one little task for, 10 minutes in the morning just helped me start my day in a really good way. Instead of waking up and just feeling, scared and overwhelmed and negative, that helped me. So find something, whatever it is, that can bring you a little bit of joy and a little bit of grounding to start your day, and do that. That would be one of my biggest tips.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic advice. Well, Deidre, you are an inspiration. You are a light within the Faster Way community. And we just truly appreciate your willingness to be vulnerable, your willingness to share your journey, because it is helpful. It's valuable for us to hear this. And I just want to acknowledge you again for the mindset that you maintained throughout your journey. You truly were inspiring us as we watched you go through that, because there are major struggles, and you spoke about the major struggles. You didn't hold back, but then you also had some victories and wins, and it's been just such a pleasure to watch you thrive this year as well. So thank you, Deidre.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, everyone.